Hobart.
Well, there may be a little bit of stress when it comes to picking up your kids on Friday or grandkids, the children in your care, because public school teachers will be walking off the job from 1:30 in the afternoon. The Australian Education Union is in talks with the state government about improving support in the classroom for teachers and students. Tasmania's Education Minister, Roger Yench, hasn't ruled out closing public schools on Friday afternoon when teachers are set to take industrial action. Here's a little bit of what Minister Yench told Leon Compton on Mornings today.
And we really just ask that the union, after all the argy-bargy, puts this offer in front of members and lets them tell the union what to do next. At the moment, we've got the union just saying to teachers across Tasmania, you shall not go to work on Friday afternoon. You shall not tell anybody whether you're going to go to work or not, so that they can plan for what happens in the schools and for the young people and families who are caught up in this. We really need the union to be speaking for the teachers and not just telling them not to come to work.
David Genford is the Tasmanian branch president of the Australian Education Union. Welcome to Drive.
Hi Lucy, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. So what's your response to that? Have you not put this to teachers?
It was interesting listening to the Minister this morning. He keeps referring to the union as opposed to the fact that my executive is made up of 10 teachers and support staff. My council is made up of 40 teachers and support staff. And they have been very clear with me that for an offer to be put to members, they want to have legitimate in-class support as part of the package. We've been very clear with the Minister, with his team in the negotiation team, and we even let him know as early as last week that if there wasn't an in-class support, a real in-class support component to this package, that action would be taken. So I'm surprised that he thinks this way, but that's where we currently stand. If they could provide an offer that had legitimate in-class support that meant that students would get better support from their teachers, and the teacher would be able to have that pair of hands in the room for a certain amount of time a week, then that would be something we could take to our members.
So Roger Yench says a range of different types of roles have been proposed to deliver this. In discussion with the union, he says there are more than 130 additional roles created. Is that not enough?
So what he is talking about is things around the periphery. So extra people in the leadership team, extra social workers, all crucial, but nothing that actually benefits the teachers in the classroom. The other one was around education support specialists, which we've seen help students in prep and now being rolled out to grade 7. These are all great initiatives, but when the offer was sent out to members, which was done via the government, the biggest response that I've received is, but what is it actually going to mean to me and the teaching that I do in the classroom? And that's exactly the same feedback that the executive gave me and said that's why we're not taking it to a vote. So there's definitely support around the periphery, but this is support that's been well needed for a long period of time. It's why our system is in such a crisis now. We also need to build on that in-class support to help our teachers with their workload and make sure they're staying in the profession, and we don't contribute to a higher teacher shortage because people walk out.
So you just mentioned you would like to see something that benefits teachers in the classroom. What is that? What will benefit the teachers in the classroom on top of these 130 additional roles?
So what we need is real in-class support. Teacher assistants who can be there, that can be at the direction of the teacher, might be running some small group activities, that might be helping with a student that's struggling with regulating their behaviour that day. It might be getting them to do some photocopying, some data entry, anything that changes throughout the year when we're having to do moderation to prove how what we change in our classrooms in regards to a student with a disability. There is so much admin that is thrown into a teacher. There is so much support that could be provided. Often I know my primary school aged kids come home with a reading level. What if we had someone who actually did those reading records with them instead of making the teacher do it? We could get some more regular understanding of what reading levels they're at. There is so much that could happen in the classroom that if a teacher could direct would be really beneficial.
So can you let us know or outline what support teachers currently get in terms of how many TAs are in classrooms at the moment or are in schools at least?
Yeah, so at the moment they don't get any. You get teacher assistance support for students with a disability, but that is targeted directly at that student. So they will sit with that student or group of students and really help them. And we don't want that to change. We definitely see the need for those students needing that support. What we don't have is support for the teacher. I think I hear stories back. I've been a teacher for 20 years, maybe let's go 30, 40 years back, when teachers were given general teacher aid assistant time in the classroom to help them. But that doesn't currently exist at the moment, and that's why we're calling out for something, whether it be phased in, whether it be some kind of recognition that the government is serious about supporting teachers in the class, which then affects the students as well.
It's 5:26. David Genford is my guest from the Australian Education Union here in Tasmania. You've met the Minister, the Education Minister, Roger Yench, this afternoon. Is that right? And how did it go?
We've got not the Minister himself. We'd love for the Minister or the Premier to step in and provide the funding that would be required. There are still negotiations ongoing. We're trying to make sure we paint our picture really clearly. But at this stage, we're still at an impasse. But we will always keep the door open for further negotiations. But we also know that the Minister needs to make a decision in regards to what's happening with schools on Friday, because the community needs to know. We tried to give as much notice as we could. Ideally, we would have loved to have given more than 8 days, but if we add an action beyond Friday, that meant it would have hit NAPLAN testing, which we didn't want to do because we know the stress that students are under in schools, and we didn't want to interrupt the NAPLAN testing. So we gave as much notice. The Minister needs to make a decision so that the community can be assured as to what's happening on Friday.
And here's a little bit of what Roger Yench had to say in terms of Friday.
Schools will be communicating with their families, their students and their families during this week on what the arrangements will be for their specific school.
So do you think it's fair that it is up to schools to decide what happens?
Well, the schools actually can't decide. The principal, the Minister, is the only person who can close the schools. So he has to be the one that steps up. He did it in our last actions that happened last year. He was aware. We give intention of when we can't provide duty of care, and he closed schools. And now the community is kind of confused because the Minister is aware of what's happening. He should be able to make that decision. So it's actually not up to individual schools. Principals legally are not allowed to decide if schools are closed. We need the Minister to make a decision, and I was really surprised he didn't announce it. I thought when he was coming on Leon this morning that he would announce it. Really surprised that he didn't, and the community need to know.
We're certainly keeping our eyes peeled on the emails to see if there has been any announcement this afternoon, but nothing as of yet. And is it, how many teachers are you expecting to walk off? Will there be an opportunity for children to congregate in an area where there is one or two teachers watching, or you just can't provide that information?
Yeah, just can't guarantee it. I know that there are lots of schools that are crying out for this support. I've never had so many teachers give me the feedback of the stress they're under now, and we're only, 5 weeks into the term. We are struggling to staff our schools at the moment, which then puts extra pressure on teachers, and the collapsed classes because of lack of relief. It's not ideal out there at the moment. We try and provide something that can give that support to schools. So there is no guarantee as to what will happen on Friday, but we have made it clear to the Minister we cannot provide duty of care from 1:30 onwards in schools.
David Genford, thanks for your time today.
Cheers. Thanks, Lucy.
David Genford there, the Tasmanian branch president of the Australian Education Union.